All right, guys, here it is, the Zastava OPAP. So I don't know, something like 3,000 or 4,000 rounds as a minimum through the rifle at this point. And of course, almost all that is steel case because it's an AK, right? When I bought the rifle, it was fairly stock. It did have a side mount with a little Nikon optic that my dad had on it, but I switched out some things. I just wanted to try it. I like the classic look of AKs, I really do. Traditional AKs are very cool, but as far as functionality goes, there's just a couple things that I thought would be more functional, and then I just wanted to mess around with it. I'd never messed with an AK, never built one up or modified anything, so this is a first round for me with an AK, and so I guess I'll just start from tip and go to the end. On the end, this is just your typical Tapco brake. It's hard to say if it works better than the slant brake that came on it originally, but I like it. It's not super oppressive to the people on your sides or obnoxious, but it's a little louder, I think, anyways. That's my opinion. Probably should be, considering that brake, the previous brake, the slant brake, there's no baffle structure in it. There's nowhere for pressure to be released any other way than just pushing things down. So this is just a little noisier, and it might help with flash a little bit. It's hard to say, again, guys. Unless you're shooting at night often. I did shoot this quite a bit at night. Probably not a big deal. Anyways, looks cool. I think it's a really classic look at this point in like the AK market to have one of these Tapco brakes on there as a standard. The sights that the rifle came with were just fine. They weren't canted bad. They weren't zeroed perfect either. If you've ever adjusted an AK sight, you know it's a little bit frustrating. But they're just fine. You know, I've seen some AKs like Wazers and stuff where the sights were like really slanted or crooked or just bent, straight up bent. These were just fine. I think they're decent quality. Not really any complaints with them. Set up for meters, I shoot in yards, and that really hasn't affected too much. I've still been making impacts on silhouette sized targets out to a quarter mile with this rifle. So I think these sights are going to be, you know, pretty close to reasonable with your 123 grain bullets doing something like 2,300 feet per second, right around there. Moving on down, yeah, there's a flashlight on here. I have a sling. This is just a Vickers sling. I think there's other AK slings that people prefer, but I like padded slings nowadays, and so that's what I go with, the Vickers. Or is this? Sorry, Viking Tactics. That's not the Vickers sling. This is the Viking Tactics. I should get my gear right. That's the Viking Tactics, and it's a padded sling, but man, it's just a sling. Sling's a sling, right? Primary arms light on here. Don't remember the model, don't care. It's an 800 lumen light, does pretty well. And in order to get a light fixed on there, it means I had to take the wood off on both sides, and I was able to leave the gas tube in there, and then I went with a Krebs custom rail. And so that's a Krebs right there. I'm fond of it. This particular model is the Yugo UFM from Krebs. And you know, you're going to have a hard time finding gear for the OPAP and even the NPAP series. Just being a heavier stamped gun, the body, the build is a little different than some of their AKs. And the Yugos traditionally, because they're just slightly different than a lot of the other AK pattern rifles out there in, you know, like maybe the forend, and then the gas block might be a little bit different position, or at least the sling. And then also the rail. You do have some differences there. It's kind of hard to find gear, especially good stuff. So when I found a Krebs rail for 50 bucks, I think Krebs has incredible deals right now. So if you're checking this out now and you have an OPAP, go look at this. As long as you can deal with the key mod, which I don't prefer at all, this is a good deal. 50 bucks, I don't know. It's really high quality gear. I think this particular rail is very quality. In fact, when I hammered this into place, and I did, you had to hammer this one in there to make this fit right. I'm not going to go through and explain it all, but to get that sucker in there, it's not just like it slides into place, okay guys? There's a retaining screw up here, but you hammer that sucker in there. That's kind of weird. It's not the same as an AR. And then your top piece slides in pretty smoothly. And then you screw them together in really good quality hardware. Nothing about it seemed cheap or chintzy. And then I just went with some Picatinny and a forward mounted light because, again, there's not a lot of rail space here, and so I wanted that light to stick out just a little bit further. The shadow doesn't bother me, anything like that. Moving on back, man, I don't know where to start with. I guess magazines are all a little bit tight and not ridiculously tight. I've had a couple AKs where I was like, man, there's something warped. there's something wrong with them, and it wasn't just the mags. This AK is just nice and tight. There's not a lot of extra wiggle in there, but it's loose enough that you can get some in there without too much trouble, which is kind of a good thing. So, you know, receiver itself is heavier. It's heavier duty. I think that probably had something to do with the fact that they used to launch grenades off these. A couple different models, not this one, but a couple different models did have an attachment for launching grenades and like a sight, a flip-up sight for launching grenades. So they made like the receiver itself more heavy duty. I like the weight myself because the rifle moves around less, but if you're going to be humping this thing around the woods and carrying rifles around for a while, you'll notice the extra weight for sure, especially compared to my friend's Wasser. If you check out that previous video, kind of an introduction video, we compared the two just a little bit. Yeah, this guy's heavier. I could tell you the bolt, though. I'm not going to take it apart right now, but the internals, I don't see any negative wear, and I'm really happy about that. Things that you can look for in an AK, you can look for metal shavings, you can look for warping, or especially on that hammer, you could start to see some deformation in a couple spots because it's hitting really hard. And this gun is overgassed. There is no doubt about it. It is way overgassed. It's shooting at the it's sending casings at the 1 o'clock. Okay, so pretty darn overgassed. But so is my 10.5-inch AR. The reliability is excellent. Of course, there's never been a jam with this gun ever. The only thing I've ever had trouble with were some junky magazines that I probably shouldn't have been using in the first place. The rest of the magazines that I've used, just like even Tapco's or the Magpul mag, has been just fine with the metal feed lips. That's been fine. I think just some of the stamped mags that are no brand or no name, I don't know, guys. Be careful about those no matter what AK you're running. Moving on down. Internally, things are good, no problems. I've looked at the chamber. I've looked on the barrel as well as you can, because you can't really look this way. You have to look the other way with light. And it seems, I don't know, it seems new. It doesn't seem like it's had even 4,000 rounds through it. Nothing is deformed. Everything looks really good. Again, I'm not doing like the AK operator's dust bowl or whatever he calls it, and I'm not mashing it into the ground often. It's taken a few falls. It's been worked on kind of rough. It's been shot fairly hard and fast and hot, but I'm not running it like a chrome line gun, and I'm not running it like in a battle scenario doing mag dumps. I'll do occasional mag dumps, maybe like 2 magazines, 60 rounds, and then I hang out for a while because I know that this barrel isn't particularly meant for that. We'll get to accuracy in that barrel in a little bit. I'm gonna keep moving back. This safety selector was really stiff when I first got it. Like, probably painfully stiff. And there's not much of a shelf on that safety selector. But I guess at this point, you know, it only took a couple months to really start smoothing it out. And right now, maybe I just got used to it. I don't know, guys. Seems fine. I do know that there's better safety selectors out there. If you're gonna go with one, the Krebs that has a shelf on top and bottom is really convenient, but at this point I don't have a reason to get it. I'm used to this one. I don't tend to miss it when I'm sweeping it. If anything, it only, like what I just did there, sometimes I can cause it to over rotate up if I can get it over that sheet metal, because this dust cover just slides around. It moves a little bit, so you could manage to get your sweep too high. Doesn't have that problem going the opposite direction because of the guard down here. So good quality parts there, no complaints. I suppose I should talk about the rail here. So if you know anything about AKs have funky rails, man. This side rail system, I hate it. I don't like it at all. I really wish there were better top cover options, but they're not, especially for the price. I know like Texas Systems or whatever has a, I can't remember the name of it. I want to call it the dog leg or something like that. It's probably wrong, but they have something that's top cover. You know, they claim it basically keeps 0, but the prices for that stuff, guys, the prices are really high, and I'm just not that confident because these dust covers do move around unless you screw in a retention screw, and that's gonna probably cause issues with getting inside here because the OPAP, if you can tell, has a side button release to get at that dust cover. It's a little bit frustrating. There's no reason to have it. I don't know why they have it. You could tell me, you could teach me something down in the comments. Let me know why there's a side button there. Just doesn't make any sense to me. So this system mounting things right to this dust cover, I don't like it. I went with the RS Regulate. Sorry, the RS Regulate mount here. I think I called it RWS earlier. RS Regulate mount. This one is one that you would adjust and set to your own, but again, this is a Yugo pattern. You have to buy it separately. It's extremely expensive. It's very high quality. There's a nice titanium bit in here that's going to lock it down to the rail really tightly, and it has held zero very efficiently. I think AKs are a little bit tough on optics, not as bad as like an FAL or a Springer air gun or something like that, but they're a little bit tough. There's a lot of violence going on with an overgas gun anyways. That vibration is pretty intense. This optic has held up okay. I have more questions about that optic than I do the rifle, honestly. So this mount, if you're going to get an AK, I would say there might be a couple other ones that are good, but for the price, this is what I would go with. And especially if you're going to get an OPAP, they make custom gear that's specifically made. I could shoot them from here if I really wanted to. No, I wouldn't shoot up in the sky. This is probably the best stuff for custom gear you can get, and of course you can drill it and tap it if you want to set it at that one position. But I like the versatility of this kind. As far as getting low, that's about as low as I could get it. I think I could probably pay a little more and get some mounts that bring me down another, like, I think it's pretty small, like not even 3/8 of an inch. You can't go much lower than this because you have your gas lock system here that keeps the gases inside, or springs, or whatever this dial is on the bottom. That's going to be in the way, so you can't go much lower than that on an AK. So that makes cheek weld a problem for a lot of people, especially with this side rail system, which sits differently. A lot of the other mounts just don't work, and so RS Regulate, that's what I'm going to say. On top of this, I have an Athlon Helos 1 to 4.5. It is an MOA reticle, MOA turret optic. It's all right. Go watch my video if you want to see what I think about that. And probably my most preferred stock that I've had yet to date. I know that these get some grief. This is just the Zuko stock. It's adjustable. I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'5", and so I need that adjustability, and this one has enough for me, especially if you're gonna have issues with eye relief. This guy will go back pretty far, which for me, depending on the eye relief that you're gonna wanna have, I got some buddies who are about 6'5", 6'6", and sometimes you wanna be able to stretch that guy out a little bit because you can't get the optic any further unless you had a totally different mount or system. And that's probably just going to add more variables. So this is what I like, and for eye relief, it's great. And my chin doesn't sit too high on here on the comb. You could get a comb riser for that Zuko stock, but this isn't a review for that. I'm just saying this is what I chose to put on there, and it's pretty cool. I like it. This is definitely a modernized AK. You know, I put the hog saddle barricade rest on here. That's mostly just because the bottom of this key mod rail is rounded, and so if I go up to barricades and stuff like that, it was a little rounded and it wasn't easy to keep flat, and so there would always be a little bit of cant in the rifle, and I don't know, ever since I got these things, I love them. They keep it nice and flat, they keep it level, and so you're not having angle error in your shots released. Other than that, the rifle is shooting real well. Let's talk about accuracy. Accuracy, man, this is a frustrating rifle to work with. I'll tell you, when I put this Krebs on there, I don't know what changed, but the accuracy node changed, and I started getting slightly tighter groups, and it wasn't just practice, and it wasn't just familiarity with the rifle. Something about installing this, perhaps free-floating the gas tube a little bit, less interference, I'm not sure what it is, guys, but I started getting better groups with it. Ammo-wise, right now, this is 154 grain soft point Tula, which is kind of like a good varmint, you know, critter round, maybe a person round too. That soft point round is going, it's not real fast. It's probably like 2,100 feet per second. And so inside of a couple hundred yards, that's still reasonably, deadly. You could definitely shoot it further. Accuracy isn't there with a lot of brands, though. I'll tell you, the most frustrating rifle I've ever had to seek out, what it likes, was this rifle. I could not find what it liked until like 3-4 months ago. Everything else was shooting between 2 and 5 inch groups at 100 yards. And I thought the rifle maybe the barrel was crap, maybe I screwed with something. But no, it just doesn't prefer those ammos, and the point of impact is dramatically different from brand to brand. From grain to grain, you're going to see a huge difference as well. But I'll tell you, from my experience with my rifle and the way that I handle recoil, the ammo that does best is definitely the Hornady. This is the SST. That's really expensive. That's like $1 a round. After that, regular old steel case brown bear, 123 grain full metal jacket. Whether it's shooting at long distance, like 400 yards with this on steel silhouettes, that does fantastic. I'm seeing around 1.25 inch groups at 100 yards for 5-shot groups out of this rifle. Fairly consistent 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch. Now compare that to the Wolf and Tula and just about everything else I tried, even brass. I was seeing 2-inch to 5-inch groups. But for some reason with that brown bear, there's something there. I'm still doing some research myself. This rifle likes it, it eats it up. It's very consistent, and the groups are, I think, incredibly respectable, especially for a noob on an AK. So I'm real happy with those 1.25 inch 5-shot groups. Not a lot of flyers in there, not a lot of extreme spread that I'm finding, even at 200 or 300 yards. They're still patterning fairly tight. And so brown bear, whatever you're doing, this rifle shoots it well. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and post it down below. I love the rifle. I'll probably do an update on it someday, maybe another 3,000 rounds down the tube. I'll have more to say about it, but so far, I'll tell you guys, I love this rifle. It's my only .30 caliber rifle, and it is cool.